You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may trod me in the very dirt, but still like dust, I'll rise.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
And the fact that I was a girl and that I was black, well, that certainly didn't help things either. You know what it's like when a family struggles to make ends meet. And the world needs more girls like you growing up to lead our parliaments and our boardrooms and our courtrooms and our universities. We need you.
And we'll rise up. I like the waves. We'll rise up. In spite of the ache, we'll rise up. And we'll do it 1,000 times again.
Colleges. Some of you have money. Some of you have patience. Some of you have kindness. Some of you have love. Some of you have the gift of long suffering. Whatever it is, whatever your gift is, what are you going to do with what you have? All right, now here's my last point about failure. Sometimes it's the best way to figure out where you're going. Your life will never be a straight path.
Hello, my name is Jackie Robinson. I was born on January 31st, 1919. My mom's and dad's names are Mally and Jerry Robinson. Growing up in Pasadena, California, I had 4 siblings and I was the youngest of 5. My siblings' names are Mac Robinson, Willa Mae Robinson, Edgar Robinson, and Frank Robinson. Growing up, I went to John Moore High School. My family grew up in relative poverty. I was proficient in 4 sports in high school: basketball, baseball, football, and track. I also played baseball, football, and basketball at UCLA. I also attended Pasadena Junior College and the University of California. I met a girl during my time at UCLA. Her name was Rachel Robinson. In 1946, I decided it was time to ask her to marry me. In 1947, Branch Rickey asked me to play on the Brooklyn Dodgers. In 1949, I was selected as the National League Most Valuable Player. I also led the Dodgers to 6 World Series and 1 World Series championship. In 1962, I was inducted to the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame. Sadly, I died on October 24th, 1972, at the age of 63. My influence still has an impact today. Today, African Americans are allowed to play in the MLB.
Hello, my name is Serena Jamaica Williams, and I'm an American female tennis player. I was born on September 26, 1981, and I'm currently 39 years old. My parents are Richard and Orange Williams. I was born in Saginaw, Michigan, but when I was very young, my family moved to Los Angeles, California, and that's where I was raised for most of my life. I grew up with 4 sisters: Venus, Lindrea, Aisha, and Tunde. Unfortunately, in 2003, Tunde was murdered in Los Angeles. Growing up, I was homeschooled to focus on my tennis career. And then, when I attended high school at Driftwood Academy. After I graduated high school, I attended college at the Art Institute of Fort Lauderdale from 2000 to 2003. I learned tennis from my father on public courts, and I went pro in my tennis career when I was 14 years old. When I was only 17 years old, I won my first Grand Slam title, and now I have 23, which is an all-time record. Also in 2000, I received my first Olympic gold medal, and now I have received 4. In 1999, I became the first African-American woman since 1958 to win a Grand Slam title, which is the first African-American woman in the Open era. My sister Venus and I are still undefeated in doubles. I have also donated over $600 million to charities, which most of the money I donate is from winnings from my tournaments. In 2017, I gave birth to my daughter, Alexis Olympia O'Manian, and later that year married my husband, Alexis O'Manian. I even played part in multiple movies, including Pixels, Ocean's 8, and Serena. I'm also sponsored by many big companies, including Nike, Gatorade, Puma, Wilson, Pepsi, and Delta Airlines. Those are only the top ones. I recently played in the 2021 Australia Open, and I'm still one of the most commonly known and famous tennis players in the world. And I'm looking forward to see what the rest of my tennis career will do. And this is one of my most famous quotes: "You have to believe in yourself when no one else does." And then this is a picture at my first Olympics. This is a picture of me when I was young. And then these are just pictures of me playing tennis.
Hi, my name is Samuel L. Jackson. I was born December 21st, 1948. I am currently 72. I was born in Chattanooga, Tennessee. My parents were Roy and Elizabeth. I was raised by my grandparents. I graduated in 1972. My first movie was Together for Days. I won my first award in 1994 for Pulp Fiction. I was married in 1980. I have a daughter named Zoe. She was born in 1982. I am an actor. I have been in at least 154 movies. Some of my more well-known movies are The Django, The Avengers, Kingsman, Secret Service, and more. I have won lots of awards. I have not won an Oscar. I have been nominated for one. I graduated from Morehouse College. In 2011, I was named the highest grossing actor of all time, with more than $7.2 billion in wealth. I have been in some big budget films like Star Wars Phantom Menace and its sequels, and lots of Marvel Cinema universes. I currently live in California. I attended MLK Jr.'s funeral as one of the ushers. I was expelled from Morehouse College for locking board members in buildings for 2 days. In protest for the school's curriculum and governance. My upcoming movies are Hitman's Wife's Bodyguard, Spiral, and Asset.
My name is Oprah Gail Winfrey. My actual name is Orpha, but people mispronounce it at a young age, so just Stubbs. I'm 67 years old and was born in Kosciuszko, Mississippi, January 29, 1954. I lived with my mom until I turned 6, and then moved to Nashville, Tennessee to with my dad. I attended East Nashville Magnet Middle School and had a really rough couple middle school years. At age 14, I was molested and raped and gave birth to a baby boy who died during pregnancy. After that hard time in my life, I transferred to Nicollet High School during my freshman year. My senior year, I won a full ride scholarship to Tennessee State University. I graduated from Nicollet High School in 1971, went to Tennessee State University, and graduated from there in 1975. I majored in speech communications and performing arts. In 1983, I was hired as a host for a small talk show called AM Chicago. In 1984, AM Chicago blew up, so they renamed it the Oprah Winfrey Show. And that's the very first episode that they had renamed it. It soon became the #1 talk show in Chicago. After the Oprah Winfrey Show blew up, I was given a role as Sophia in a 1985 hit movie, The Color Purple. After the show and movie got more popular, I was given an Emmy for Best Talk Show Host in 1987. I was also given this award 2 more times in 1995 and 1998. I placed 9th out of 100 people as America's Best Person in 1999. In 2002, I started funding and planning to open a school for girls in South Africa. In 2005, we started building the school, and the Oprah Winfrey's Leadership Academy for Girls opened in 2007. And then that's where cutting from it. I've been in a long on-off relationship with Stedman Graham for a little bit more than 35 years. I'm never planning to get married because I felt it would hold me down, and I'm never planning to have kids because the girls in my school feel my desire to have kids.
Hello, I'm James O'Donnell. I'm 90 years old and I was born on January 17, 1931 in Mississippi. My father was Robert O'Donnell and my mother was Ruth Hartley. I had a son named Flynn O'Donnell and I had a wife named Cecilia Hart. I'm an American actor. I played in Doctor Strangelove, Sandlot, Field of Dreams, and Star Wars. I had a struggle to overcome it. I took acting lessons. My father left me to be a boxer and actor. I was in the U.S. Army for 2 years. It took me a long time to get here, but I did it. Thank you for your time.
You gotta press the button. Oh. What's up? My name is Kobe Bryant. I was born on August 23rd, 1978 in Philadelphia and passed away on January 26, 2020. My mom and dad raised me in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, but we moved to Italy shortly after. In Italy, I had two sisters that pushed me to be more successful in my sports, where I played mainly basketball and soccer. After I moved back to Philadelphia, I went to Lower Merion High School. I led them to state for 4 years in a row, averaging 30 points per game. I was a good student with a GPA ranging from 3.3 to 4.0, but I decided to fulfill my lifelong dream to play on the NBA. Shortly after, I got drafted to the Los Angeles Lakers and became one of the youngest starters in the U.S. Around this time, I was 18 years old. As I started to become well-known throughout the world, I got asked to shoot a music video where I met the love of my life, Vanessa Lane. A year later, we got engaged. I have 3 daughters. Their names are Gianna, Bianca, and Kaylee. Oh, okay. Vanessa and I went over a rough patch in 2011 and filed for a divorce, but we canceled it in 2013 and stated in a press conference that we are looking forward to our future together. What makes me different from others is that I never give up, whether it is for my basketball career or my family. Some of my achievements include 17 NBA All-Star selections, 2 Olympic gold medals, NBA MVP award, one of the youngest starters in the NBA, second highest scoring in a single game, and best NBA player award. In 2015, I concluded, this season is all I have left to give. My heart can take the pounding, my mind can handle the grind, but my body knows it's time to say goodbye. I knew I had to retire after tearing my rotator cuff 3 consecutive times. After my last season of basketball, I started coaching my daughter Gianna's basketball team. Over the past 5 years, I've had the best days of my life with my family. I have also got to make a short film called Dear Basketball, and I won an Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film. In California, while Gianna and I were heading over to a basketball practice, there were troubles with the helicopter and the crash. I had an impact on the world when I passed away, but I am glad I got to live my dream while so many individuals were supporting me, as well as my family.
Arthur Ashe. Hi, I'm Arthur Ashe. I'm born in 1943. I died in 93. I grew tennis player. I won 3 Grand Slams titles. I am only a black man win the single titles. Wimbledon, U.S. Open, at U.S. Open. Retired. I was a sports commentator. I taught others HAB and a hard worker. And this is my poster for thank you for watching my short video. Hope you enjoy.
Awesome. Great job.
I am Betsy Coleman. I am the first Black female pilot to have a pilot's license. I was born on January 26, 1892, and Mom and Dad named my Susan and George Coleman. I was the 10th of 13 children. I grew up poor in Washington, Texas. At 12 years old, I began attending the Missionary Baptist Church in Texas. After graduating, I attended the Oklahoma Color and Agriculture and Norman University, where I only completed 1 term due to financial constraints. In 1915, when I was 23, I moved to Chicago and got a job as a manicurist. I heard stories about World War I pilots, which sparked me into aviation. I married Paula Glenn on January 30th, 1917. I withdrew savings I accumulated from my job as a manicurist. With that money, I set off to Paris from New York on November 20th, 1920. It took me 7 months to learn how to fly, but on June 15th, 1921, I became the first African-American female to receive a pilot's license in France, because America would not let an African-American female get a pilot's license. In September of 1921, when I returned to the United States, I was invited as a guest of honor to attend the all-black musical Shuffle Along. One of the jobs I took in the mid-1920s was to drop advertising leaflets in my airplane for the Coast Tire and Rubber Company. Since I cannot be a commercial pilot in America, I became a barnstormer, which I performed tricks and stunts from my airplane. From the money that I got from that job, I bought my first airplane. While practicing for a show, I crashed my airplane. Luckily, I was still alive. I went to many shows to perform my tricks and stunts. My dream was to open my own flight school, but on April 30th, 1926, I was tragically killed at 34 years old. During a rehearsal for an aerial show, I fell to my death.
Hello, my name is Aretha Franklin. I was born on March 25th, 1942. My mom and dad's names are Clarence and Barbara Franklin. Growing up in Memphis, Tennessee, I had 5 siblings. Their names are Irma, Carolyn, Ron, Carl, and Rev Cecil Franklin. When I got old enough, I went to Juilliard. I later dropped out to pursue singing. Later, my parents divorced. When I was 14, I would sing at my church. My father recognized that I had a great voice and began to be my manager. My first songs were recorded when I was only 14. It was so much fun singing and recording songs. I was later signed by Columbia Records, and I convinced my father to let me record pop music. My hit single "Rockabye" catapulted me into an international star. During the years 1967 through the 70s, I released more hit singles. In 1980, I gave a memorable performance to the Queen of England. I was one of the best-selling music artists of all time. I received numerous honors throughout my career, and I was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. In 2005, President George W. Bush awarded me the Presidential Medal of Freedom. And in 2010, Rolling Stone magazine ranked me #1 on its hit list of 100 greatest singers of all time. In 2020, I was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. I only performed in America because I was afraid of flying overseas. I was known for my amazing voice and wonderful songs. I was one of the best singers to ever live. I won over 18 Grammy Awards and sold more than 75 million records worldwide. My #1 song is called Respect. I was the American singer that defined the golden age of soul music in the 60s. I had a lot of #1 hits, and I wish that I was still alive today so I could sing and write more music for the world. Unfortunately, I died when I was 76 years old on August 16, 2018.
My name is Will Smith. I was born on September 25th, 1968. I grew up in Philadelphia with my siblings Harry, Ellen, and Pam Smith. My parents' names are Willard Carroll Smith and Caroline Bright. I graduated from Overbrook High School and started my acting career in 1986. Me and my partner founded the Will and Jada Smith Family Foundation in 1997. Our goal was to make the world a better place. I made my first song in the late 1980s and early 1990s. I got my first Grammy Award in 1988 for Best Solo Rap Performance. My first movie was 6 Degrees of Separation back in 1993.
Hello, my name is Melissa Jefferson. People call me Lizzo. Why my name is Lizzo is because when I was in high school, my name was Lissa, and then when the Jay-Z song Izzo came out, we combined them to make Lizzo. I went to Oaks High School. I graduated from there, and then I went to the University of Houston. Then I dropped out my junior year because my father passed away. Then after that, I lived in my car for a few years. Then I came out with my first song, Truth Hurts. I think my favorite part of my job is getting to know people and acting and being positive always about everything, about myself and what I do and about my music. My music really inspires me to do better, and I actually go to schools to talk to people, talk to kids about how it's okay to be bigger or stronger, and you are beautiful the way you are. My network costs around $10 million today. I get paid $174.9K a year. This is why I'm proud to be a Black pioneer. Hi.
You're good to go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Issa Ray. My full name is Joe Issa Ray Dive, and I was born on January 12th, 1985. I was born in Los Angeles, California. My parents are Abdullah Dive, my father was a pediatrician, and my mother, Delma Dive, who was a teacher from Louisiana. I have 4 siblings. I'm an actress, producer, and writer. I've acted in many movies such as The Photograph, Lovebirds, The Hint You Give, Little, and much more. I'm a big part of the acting community because I've widened the view of the arts to show that no matter what gender, race, or color you are, you can make a change. I graduated from Stanford in 2007 with a bachelor's in arts and African American studies. When I was in high school, I attended King Drew Magnet High School. I graduated Drew Magnet High School in Science and Medicine, listening I'm extremely fluent in French. But unfortunately, when I was in high school, my parents got divorced. I've won multiple awards, such as the Satellite Award for Best Actress in a Series, Comedy or Musical. Another award I won was the BET Award for Best Actress and the Shorty Award for Best Web Series. I first gained my spotlight from my YouTube web series, Awkward Buffalo. I'm currently engaged to my fiance, Louis Jermaine. We got engaged in April of 2019, and I'm currently 36 years old. My web series, Awkward Buffalo, first premiered on YouTube in 2011. As an instant hit, it eventually led to the creation of my HBO series, Insecure. With Awkward Buffalo and Insecure, I've changed the way people see Black women. I've gained wider and wider recognition as a co-creator, co-writer, and star of HBO series Insecure. My book, The Misadventures of Black Girl, became a New York Times bestseller. In 2016, I used my platform to bring attention to the police violence and brutality against Black people. In 2016, the American Film Institute selected Insecure as one of the top television programs of the year. I hope that all the things that I've done in my life inspire people to be who they are and not be ashamed of themselves. Thank you.
I was born on December 18th, 1912 in Washington, D.C. My father was a U.S. Army officer who enlisted as a private during the Spanish-American War. So as I followed in my father's footsteps, I went into the University of Chicago. I entered in the U.S. Military Academy at West Point, New York in July 1932. I graduated in June 1936 with a commission as a second lieutenant of infantry. I was then the first African American to be in the Air Force. Later, I got married to my beautiful wife, Agatha Scott, in 1939. I entered the infantry school and a year later graduated and assumed duties as a professor of military science as a Tuskegee Airman in May 1940. And at the highest flying school at nearby Tuskegee Army Air Base, I was received my pilot wings as of March 1942. Then in March 1946, I went into the Lockburn Army Air Base, Ohio, as commander of the base. In 1949, I went into the Air War College Maxwell Air Force Base in Atlanta, and after graduating, I was assigned to the Deputy Chief of Staff for Operation Headquarters, U.S. Air Force, Washington, D.C. I then served as Director of Operations and Training at the Far East Air Force Headquarters, Tokyo, from 1954 till 1955. When then I assumed the position of Vice Commander 13th Air Force with additional duties as Commander Air Task Force. And when the 12th Air Force was transferred to Waco, Texas in December 1957, I assumed new duties as Deputy Chief of Staff for Operation Headquarters, U.S. Air Force, Europe, in Westbahn, Germany. In July 1961, I then returned to the United States Air Force Headquarters, where I served as Director of Manpower and Organization Deputy Chief of Staff for Programs and Requirements. I remained in the position until my assignment as Chief of Staff for the United Nations Command in U.S. Force Base in Korea. Then I was assigned as Deputy Commander-in-Chief, U.S. Strike Command, the headquarters located at MacDill Air Force Base in Florida, August 1968. I had additional duties as Mid-East, Southern Asia, and Africa as well. I then retired February 1st, 1970. Then on December 9th of 1998, I was advised to General President Clinton, who pinned on my 4-star insignia. I then died July 4th, 2002.
Hello, my name is Nat Turner. I was born on October 2nd, 1800. My mom's name is Nancy Turner. I didn't have a dad. I grew up in South Anson County, Virginia. However, growing up, I wasn't fortunate to have siblings of any sorts. When I was growing up, my owner's kids taught me how to read and write and other school things that you'd normally learn at school. I ran away from my plantation when I was 8 years old for 2 months, and I felt God tell me as I needed to go back. And a few weeks later, I was sold to a new plantation, and then a few years later, I was sold to another one, and then I was sold to a man named John Lewis, and that's where I would spend the rest of my days. I gathered 200 people to help me revolt against other slave owners, and we did. I got away for a month, and then I was found by a farmer on the road, and he held me at gunpoint. I went in easy, and then soon later got hung. I died on November 11th, 1838.
My name is Biggie Smalls. I was born on May 21st, 1972. My mom and dad's name is Valletta Wallace and George Walker. Growing up in Brooklyn, I had no siblings. My friends made up for that. Growing up, I went to Queen of All Saints Middle School. I started getting in trouble with drugs around the age of 12 through 14. I started rapping for my friends at the age of 12. They called me a good freestyler. I dropped out of school at the age of 17, 1 year before I graduated. I got arrested 4 times for drug use and possession of a gun, once in North Carolina and 3 other times in my hometown. Later down the road, I got influenced into a gang called the Crips, and then met my best friend Tupac, who was a blood. But we were really good friends until he dropped a new album that was called Who Shot Ya? In the album, there were many songs based against the Crips. Of course, I took offense because I was a Crip. In one of his songs, he talks about his biggest robbery against one of the Crip members, and then later on, I ended up dying in a drive-by shooting.
Hello, I'm Dominique Dawes. I was born in Silver Spring, Maryland on November 20th, 1976. My parents are Don and Loretta Dawes. I am famous for becoming the first African-American girls gymnast to win an Olympic medal. At the National Championships in 1994, I won all-around gold, as well as all 4 events. This leads me to also become a gymnast to win all 5 medals there since 1969. I started gymnastics at 6 years old, but I wasn't supposed to be a gymnast. Originally, my mother signed me up for tumbling classes, and when we got to the first practice, it turns out that class had been canceled. Luckily, someone suggested to my parents that I should try gymnastics. So, my parents took me to a local gymnasium called Hills Angels, where I met my coach, Kaylee, who was my coach for my entire career. But, other than gymnastics, I went to school like any other child. I have attended Montgomery Blair High School in Silver Spring, Maryland, Gathingsburg High School in Gathingsburg, Maryland, where I was prom queen in 1994. Lastly, I attended the University of Maryland, where I graduated with a bachelor's degree in 2002. As you know, I was very successful, but I had to work super hard to get there. I would practice 5 to 6 hours each day for 6 days a week. Lesson learned that you should always push yourself and keep trying hard, because one day your hard work will pay off if you work hard enough for it. For example, I was on a team called the Magnificent Seven. On the team, our team was the first ever girls gymnastics team to win an Olympic gold medal for the USA in 1996. And to be on a team, there are about 1 million girls who tried out. But out of all the girls, only I and 6 others made it on the team. I'm glad that I was able to succeed so much and still be under the age of 50. So I'm also so happy that I was able to inspire so many people from young to old. I just remember that all good things come from when you work for them.
Hello, my name is Harriet Tubman. I was born in 1820. My mom and dad's names are Harriet, Greenie Ross, and Ben Ross. Growing up, I've had 8 siblings. Margaret Ross, Rachel Ross, Moses Ross, Lena Ross, Sophia Ross, Ben Ross, and Marion Ross. I did not attend any colleges or schools. I was born into slavery, and me and my sisters were captured, but I was able to escape from slavery at a very young age, and I went on to help free many others. I helped lead 70 plus slaves to freedom by using the Underground Railroad, and I never ran my trains off the tracks, and I never lost a single passenger, and I also was never caught. The Underground Railroad, which is a way for slaves to get away and escape to freedom in many states throughout the north and east, and even into some parts of Canada. In 1863, I became a union worker. I was a cook, a nurse, and a spy. I also helped lead a military raid along with William Still after he failed his first attempt. This made me the first woman to lead a military grade. When I first got married, I decided to take my mother's name, Harriet, and I wanted to have my husband's last name, Tubman, Harriet Tubman. My first husband died, but when I remarried in 1869 to Nelson Davis, I still wanted to be Harriet Tubman. Nelson and I got married on March 18, 1869 at the Presbyterian Church in Auburn, New York. We decided in 1874 to adopt a baby girl by the name of Freddie Davis. Years later, I founded a charity house in Auburn, New York. This is where I spent most of my time, and I devoted most of my life here. This is also where I later passed away in 1913.
Hello, my name is Condoleezza Rice. I was born in Birmingham, Alabama on November 4th, 1954. My wonderful parents are John Rice and Angelina Rice. I ended up skipping my first and 7th grade year and graduated high school at the age of 16. And soon after entered the University of Notre Dame to become a pianist, but later switched degrees and ended up earning a master's degree in political science. After I worked as an intern at the U.S. Department of State, I went to Russia and studied Russian at Moscow University. In 1981, I received a PhD in political science. Later that same year, I joined the faculty at Stanford University as a professor of political science. Almost 3 years later, I won the Walter J. Gores Award for Excellence in Teaching. Almost 5 years later, in 1989, I was appointed Director of Soviet and East European Affairs of the National Security Council. And in 1993, I won the School of Humanities and Sciences Dean's Award for Distinguished Teaching. Then in 2001, I became the National Security Advisor until 2005, when I became U.S. Secretary of State when George W. Bush was in office, up until Barack Obama became president in 2009. After that, I returned to Stanford University as a professor in global businesses and the economy. I was also one of the first 2 women golfers to be accepted into Augusta National Golf Club.
My name is George Washington Carver. I was born in 1864, January 1st. At 1 week old, I was kidnapped by Confederate soldiers who were trying to end slavery. My slave owner, he sent a search party to rescue me, and once I was saved, my slave owner adopted me. I was homeschooled. After I worked at a farm with my slave owner, I went to Simpson Art School, and I decided that wasn't my jam, and then I went to Iowa State. I studied agriculture science, and then I became a scientist. I studied peanuts, potatoes, rice, etc. And over my time as a scientist, I created over 300 plus products from a peanut. They were all peanut based. And I also made products from potatoes and other stuff. They weren't as well known, but they're pretty cool. Some believe that I saved agriculture because I created many chemicals that grew plants to be bigger and other things, make them healthier. I created certain farm tools. A lot of people don't know about them though. I believe that they inspired many to create other farm tools, and they're used today still. I sadly died January 5th, 1943, and I believe I moved many people to do what they're doing today.
Hello, my name is Jesse Owens. I was born on September 12th, 1913. My parents were Henry Cleveland Owens and Mary Emma Smith. I grew up in Oakville, Alabama. had 9 siblings and I was the youngest of them. At age 9, me and my family moved to Ohio. The name originally had been Gracie, but because of my Brazilian accent, my peers and teachers thought I said Jesse instead of Daisy. I was called Jesse the rest of my life. I attended East Texas High School. At East Texas High School, I set records in the 100, 100, and 200-yard dash. I also set a record in the long jump. I enrolled at Ohio State in 1935. My first year at Ohio State, I won 2 NCAA championships. In 1936, I qualified for the Olympics in Berlin. This Olympics had really high chances because it was Nazi Germany at the time. I performed great and won 4 gold medals in the 100 yard dash and the relay. I went home and married and had 3 kids, and I died in 1980.
I'm doing Jay-Z. I was born December 4th, 1969 in Brooklyn. In June 2019, Jay-Z became the first hip-hop billionaire. He was married to Beyonce. He has 3 children. He got his name from Mercy Project and the J.O.Z. Subway. His kids are Ivy, Sir, and
Hello, my name is Claudette Colvin and I am 81 years old. I was born on September 5th of 1939. When I was younger, I was adopted by my mother's great aunt and uncle because my parents could not support me financially. I attended Booker T. Washington High School and Booker T. Washington Magnet High School. At the age of 15, I was riding home on the bus when a white lady needed a seat on the bus, but I refused to stand. Because of this act, I went to prison, and I was in there for 3 hours before my mother brought the priest to bail me out. I later had 2 kids, Raymond and Randy. We then moved to New York to live with my sister, where I became an assistant nurse in a nursing home. And I worked there for 35 years before retiring. I've had award-winning books written about me, and it just goes to show that you can use what little rights you have to make a big difference.
Hello, my name is Frederick Douglas. I was born in February of 1818 in Tuckahoe, Maryland. My mother's name was Harriet Bailey, and I was born into slavery. I was raised by my grandmother, and at age 8 was sent to Baltimore to the house of Hugh Auld. His wife taught me how to read, and when he forced her to stop, I taught myself with the help of her kids. 7 years later, I was sent to a farm run by Edward Covey. He was cruel and treated us badly. But when I was working in a shipyard back in Baltimore, I escaped. On February 3rd, 1838, 2 years after my first failed attempt, I took a train to Philadelphia and then to New York City, and I started my free life. I became a leader in the abolitionist movement that sought to end slavery, and married my first wife, Anna, September 15th, 1838. In 1845, I published my first book, Narrative of the Life of Frederick Douglass, American Slaves, and published 2 others, one in 1855 and one in 1881. My first time meeting Abraham Lincoln was to protest discrimination of African Americans in the Union Army. My second was concerning his 1864 re-election campaign. Because of the meeting, I reversed course and endorsed him as President of the United States. During the Civil War, I recruited African Americans for the Union Army and continued to write and speak against slavery, arguing for a higher purpose for the war. Anna and I had 5 kids together before her death at age 69 in 1882, and on January 24th, 1884, I married my second wife, Kaylee. Married for 11 years before my death, on February 20th, 1895, Washington, D.C. I became one of the most famous intellectuals of my time, advising presidents and lecturing to thousands.
Hello, my name is Martin Luther King Jr. I was born January 15, 1929, and my mom and dad's names are Alberto Williams King and Martin Luther King Sr. Growing up in Atlanta, Georgia, I had 3 siblings. My siblings' names are John Clarendon, A.D. King, and Christine King Ferris. Growing up, I went to Morehouse College School. On February 25th, 1948, I became a Baptist minister. June 21st, 1948, I graduated from Morehouse College. On June 18th, 1953, I married Coretta Scott. In October 13th, 1954, I became a pastor of a Baptist church in Montgomery, Alabama. On June 5th, 1955, I received my PhD from Boston University. December 1955, I became a leader of the Montgomery bus boycott to end the segregation of blacks and whites on buses. On August 28, 1963, I led the March on Washington and gave my avid dream speech. Almost 250,000 people listened to my speech at the nation's capital. December 10, 1964, I received the Nobel Peace Prize for my work. March 21st, 1965, I led thousands of protesters 50 miles from Selma to Montgomery, Alabama. April 4th, 1968, I was assassinated by James Earl Ray.
I was born on February 24th, 1940 in Troy, Alabama to Willie Mae Carter and Eddie Lewis. 21 years later, I graduated from the American Baptist Theological Seminary in Nashville, Tennessee, and was ordained in Baptist ministry. 6 years later, I earned a bachelor's degree in philosophy from Fisk University. In 1968, I got married to my wife, Lillian Miles. Later, in 1972, I marched on Bloody Sunday for black rights and voting rights with my fellow Big Six members. In 1976, we adopted our only son, John Miles Lewis, and in 1986, I joined the U.S. Congress. In 2011, Barack Obama awarded me the Presidential Medal of Freedom. So he addressed me as the conscience of the U.S. Congress for my great courage and unwearying commitment to justice. I served 17 terms in the U.S. Congress. In 2019, I was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer and later died on July 17, 2020.
Go for it.
Hello, my name is Tupac Shakir. I was born June 16, 1971. My mom and dad's name are Afeni and Billy. I grew up primarily in Harlem. In 1984, we moved to Baltimore, and in 1988, we moved to Oakland, California. I only have one blood-related sibling and 2 half-siblings on my mom's side, and 4 half-siblings on my dad's side. Their names are Siakwa, Mopreme, Chinua, Nazinga, and Takira. Growing up, I went to Thermopolis High School. I grew up in some rough places. I started making music when I was about 17. I made my first debut when I was 20. My most famous album is called All Eyes on Me. I started making music because when I was a teenager, one of my friends got shot while playing with guns. That inspired me to write my first song, which is about gun safety. When I was 24, I went to jail for sexually assaulting a 19-year-old woman that I met at a nightclub. I served 9 months in jail. I was 25 years old when I got out of jail. Shortly after I was out of jail, I was in a drive-by shooting and died to a hail of bullets. I was shot 7 times before I actually died.
Hello, I am Madam C.J. Walker. I was born on December 23rd, 1867 in Delta, LA. My parents were Anderson Breedlove and Owen Breedlove. I am famous for being the first black woman millionaire in America, and made my fortune thanks to my homemade line of hair care products for black women. I was one of 6 children of Owen and Anderson Breedlove, former slaves turned to sharecroppers after the Civil War. I was orphaned at the age of 7. I lived with my older sister, and the 2 of us worked in the cotton fields. Partly to escape my abusive brother-in-law, at the age of 14, I married Lois McWilliams.
Hello, I am Tara Walker. I am an artist. I was born in Stockton, California, and my parents' names are Gwendolyn Walker and Larry Walker. I have only one sibling, and her name is Jana Walker. For the first part of my childhood,
because I went to school in California. However, my family eventually moved to Georgia when I was 13. During my time in school in Georgia, I was bullied. Kids bullied me because of my race. I wanted to learn why those kids thought it was okay to bully me, so I went to the library. I quickly learned about slavery in America and how horrible it was. I was very successful during my time in college. I earned a bachelor's degree in painting and printmaking from the Atlanta College of Art in 1991. I also earned a Master of Fine Arts degree in painting and printmaking from the Rhode Island School of Design in 1994. I am the second person ever to hold the Tepper Chair position at Rutgers University's Mason Gross School of Arts from 2015 to 2020. Hartnett Arthur holds the position now. My art is created for people to think about what slavery really was. I want people to really think and learn from the art I create. I do not care whether or not people think my art is effective. I just want people to think about why I created it. What is the purpose? What is my goal? How does this impact the way they see the world? I hope that those viewing my art understand why I am so bold in what I do. I am not afraid to do things that may seem weird or strange to some. I only want more to know and to learn about the racial discriminations that happen in past and present America. Thank you.
I am Michael Jordan. I was born on February 17, 1960. I'm famous for being a professional basketball player. In high school, I tried out for the basketball team, but I wasn't good enough to be on the team. I worked hard next year and made the team. I was in the McDonald's All-American game. In my fame, I retired once and came back to the NBA team. I played for the Wizards for a while, and then I went back to the Kings. I am one of the richest athletes in the world, and I now hold many records, including most average points per game. And this proves that if you get knocked down, you just get back up. Here's a quote: "I can accept failure. Everyone fails at something, but I can't accept not trying." Michael Jordan is the best basketball player right now because he never gave up.
Hello, my name is Prince Rogers Nelson. I was born on June 7th, 1958. My mom and dad's names are John L. Nelson and Maddie Delashaw Baker. Growing up in Minneapolis, I had 8 siblings. My siblings' names are Tyka, Dwayne, Sharon, Noreen, Alfred, Omar, Lorna, and John. Growing up, I went to Bryant Junior High School and Central High School. I was 14 when I first started with the music industry. I joined a band called the Revolution Band. I also gained attention from R&B record producer Jimmy Jam when he was attending Bryant Junior High School. I taught myself how to play the piano, guitar, and drums. I became a professional singer and performer as a young man and earned much popularity with my album Prince. My song Rolling Stone got 27 out of 100 on those greatest artists/songs of all time. After several years of relative obscurity, I returned to the limelight in 2004 to perform at the Grammy Awards with Beyonce Knowles. The same year, I was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That spring, I released Musicology with a tour that became the top concert draw in the United States. One of my greatest accomplishments was being the best male R&B vocal performance, Future Baby Mama in 2008, which is big, especially for being the age I was. I have influenced so many people with the things I've done. I have had a lot of major impacts on the world, including being an individual who stood as a standard barrier for individuality. My influence helping empower millions of others to own their uniqueness, I can't say that, shaping the more diverse, accepting, colorful world that's crystallizing in the 21st century. No wonder I was so hated by the forces of conformity. I have won 7 Grammys, including Best Rock Performance by a Group with Vocals for Purple Rain in 1985 and Best Traditional R&B Performance for Musicology in 2005. 1999 and Purple Rain both got in the Grammy Hall of Fame. I died at the age of 57 because I took sleeping pills and didn't make it.
Hello, I am Louis Armstrong. I was born August 4th, 1901 in New Orleans, Louisiana. The neighborhood I lived in was so dangerous, it was named the battlefield. I dropped out of school in 5th grade to get a job, which helped me support my family and get a cornet, which makes a trumpet. I got arrested New Year's Eve 1912 for being dared to shoot a pistol, and I did it. I was then sent to the Colorways Home for Boys, which, while there, my instructor taught me how to play my cornet properly. I joined Joe King Oliver's band after that because I knew I wanted to go into a career of music. I got married to Lillian Hardin, who was the pianist in the band, and then I became famous and appeared in concerts, TV, radio, and many, many more things. I had some medical troubles, like heart problems, toward the end of my life, and my doctors told me that I had to stop playing the trumpet, otherwise I probably wouldn't survive. I couldn't do this because playing the trumpet was really nice for me and I loved it, and I knew that my fans loved it too. So I continued playing, and I passed away myself July 6th, 1971. I have many famous songs, such as What a Wonderful World, Potato Head Blues, When the Saints Come Marching In, PBGBs, and Hello Dolly, which you've been hearing throughout this entire presentation. These are just a portion of my songs, and there are many, many more. Thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Angela Yvonne Davis. I was born on January 26, 1944. I lived in a small town called Dynamite Hill in Birmingham, Alabama. This town was known for racial conflicts and bombings. I lived with my mom, Sally, who was a school teacher, and my dad, Frank, who was also a school teacher. I had 3 siblings, Fania, Renald, and Ben. As a teenager, I attended Irwin High School. After getting my scholarship and graduating, I went to Brandeis University, studying socialism and communism. I went to different events throughout Germany and later found my career path and got my degree in philosophy from Humboldt University in East Berlin. In 1980, at the age of 36, I got married to Milton Braithwaite, and 3 years later we got a divorce, and then I decided to be part of the LGBT community. During the 1900s, I was put into prison, serving over a year because guns belonging to me were used in an armed takeover in a courtroom, causing 4 people to be killed. While in prison, I was inspired to write my very first book called If They Come in the Night, basically talking about my life in prison and how that was. I also wrote many other books about freedom, violence, race, culture, equal rights, and much more. I was a big part of the civil rights movement to protest against racial segregation because I believe everyone should have equal rights and be treated fairly. I also helped people who want racial justice, women's rights, and criminal justice. I've helped a lot of people to this day, and I'm still fighting for rights that need to be applied.
Hello there, I'm Angie Thomas. I was born on September 20th, 1988. I was raised by my mother and my grandmother in Jackson, Mississippi. My father wasn't a very influential figure in my life. When I was 9, I was a rapper. Some of my rapper names were Young Shorta and the Little Lady Princess. My mother was my manager, and although I loved doing it, I did not take a career in music. I went to Belhaven University, a private Christian liberal arts college. At Belhaven, I earned a BFA, and I also became the first Black teenager to graduate in creative writing. Originally, I planned to write fantasy middle grade novels, but I feared that my books wouldn't have a purpose and people wouldn't care about them. I began a new manuscript after hearing about the unnecessary deaths of Black people and the lack of police accountability. Some people who really influenced me to write The Hate U Give were Trayvon Martin, Tamir Rice, Michael Brown, and Sandra Bland, who were all killed or imprisoned due to racial bias. They were all young. Trayvon was 17, Tamir was 12, Michael was 18, and Sandra was 28. I started writing my debut best-selling novel as a short story, but it ended up being 444 pages long. The Hate U Give's title is based on something Tupac got tattooed on himself, Thug Life, which means the hate you give little infants as everybody. I think it means that what you give her and teach our youth comes back to get you later, whether it's good or bad. I look at books as a form of activism. Sometimes they'll show us a side of the world we might not have known about. I wrote 3 other books besides The Hate U Give. They are titled On the Come Up, Find Your Voice, and Concrete Road. On the cover is about a teen rapper trying to make it big and fill her father's shoes. Find Your Voice is a creative writing guide journal. And Concrete Road is a prequel to The Hate You Give, as well as my latest release. It was released on January 12th of this year. I won many awards in my writing career, such as the Coretta Scott King Book Award, Walter Dean Myers Grant, and a multitude of others. I'm also a best-selling author, and that is one of my greatest accomplishments. I love my heritage, and I am proud to be considered a Black pioneer.
Hello, my name is Michelle Nichols, and I am 88 years old. I was born on December 28th, 1932 in Robbinsdale, Illinois, a suburb of Chicago. My parents' names were Samuel Earl and Alicia May. When I was first born, my name was Grace Dale Nichols, but I wasn't a big fan of that, so me and my parents decided to change my name in the show, which means Victorious Maiden. When I was 16, I created a ballet for Duke Ellington. Then in 1959, I had my film debut with Sammy Davis Jr. in Porgy and Bess. Then, when I was 31, I got a call from William Roddenberry to be a main character in Star Trek. I was Mayoda Yura. And then in 1984, I was presented with NASA's Public Award for my many efforts towards innovating the U.S. space program. And I was the first African American woman to play a lead role on television.
Hi, I'm Dorothy Dandridge. I was born on November 9th, 1922, to Ruby and Cyrus Dandridge. I'm famous for becoming the first woman of color to be nominated for an Oscar. Before I was born, my mother forced my father to leave, so my sister Vivian and I grew up without a father. My sister Vivian and I had a rough childhood. My mother's girlfriend often abused us and called it discipline. I never really went to school. I had tutors and dance lessons, but no real education. As teenagers, we started to sing and dance at restaurants and churches. Our mother even called us the Wonder Children. Vivian, of course, grew up, and so did I. I married a man named Harold Nicholas. Then a year later, I gave a complicated birth to my daughter. She had a complicated brain disease that didn't allow her to learn. In 1955, I divorced her. A couple years later, I married Jack Dennison, and once again, my marriage failed. I had a successful career until I hit my 40s. All my money was stolen, and my daughter was taken away from me. I became depressed, and later that year, I overdosed and accidentally killed myself. My only living relative is my grandniece, Nellie Wallace. She is an actress and singer. She is now 41 years old. This is my acting career. Acting modeling career. This was me in 1944, 1942, and 1941. This is me in 1953, 1939, and 1958 in my lead role, Carmen Jones. This is my daughter. Yeah. And that's my story.
My name is Chuck Berry. I was born October 18th, 1926 in St. Louis, Missouri. My parents' names are Thelma and Henry. My siblings' names are Thelma, Paul, Lucy, Henry W., and Henry W. I never saw a white man in my neighborhood until the age of 3 because of a fire. When I saw him, I thought he was just scared of the fire. So I asked my father why his skin was white, and my father said that his skin was white day or night because he was a white man. When I was 17, I went on a road trip to California, but in Kansas City we stopped and we went on a robbing spree. We then proceeded to get caught and went to prison for 3 years and was let out on good behavior. We were sentenced to 10. I was let out after 3 for good behavior. When I got out, I joined a band from a former classmate. I then proceeded to join Sir John's Trio, a famous jazz pianist band, and played at the Cosmopolitan. I then proceeded to start attracting white patrons to the nightclub when I was in. then I started taking road trips to Chicago to try to find to get record contracts. I met Muddy Waters after a couple, and he recommended me to Chess Records. I then proceeded to make the song Maybelline, and when I did, showed it to the executives at Chess Records. I was then immediately handed a contract and was able to start producing records with them. Most of my life, I was making records, and I am famous and known for being one of the first rock and roll pioneers and one of the founding fathers. In 1985, I was awarded the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award, and in 1986, a year later, I was the first inductee into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Keith Richards said, who is a Rolling Stone, said that it's hard for me to talk about him because I have lifted every lick he has played, and this is the man that started it all, as he was introducing Chuck Berry into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Hi, I'm Ruby Bridges, and I was born September 8th, 1954. My parents' names are Lucille and Abin Bridges. Growing up in New Orleans, I had 3 siblings. My siblings' names are Judah, Zachary, and Bradford. Growing up, I went to William Frantz Elementary School. I was born in Mississippi, but when I turned 4, my parents and I moved to the South and searched for a better life. Then, when I was 6, I was the first African American to attend an all-white school in the South. On my first day, and for the rest of the year, federal marshals had to walk me to school, 2 in front and 2 behind me. On my first day, when my mother, the federal marshals, and I arrived, there were large crowds of people gathered in front of the school, yelling and throwing objects. January 14, 1964, Norman Rockwell painted a painting in my honor. Then, October 10, 1984, I got married to Malcolm Hall. January 11, 1998, Disney produced a movie about me. And June 7, 1999, I published an autobiography of my life titled In My Eyes. October 12, 1999, I established the Ruby Bridges Foundation, which helps to end the fight of racism. November 10, 2007, the Children's Museum of Indianapolis unveiled a new exhibit documenting my life. May 12, 2015, I met President Obama and reviewed the paintings created in my honor. When my mother and the federal marshals walked me up to William Frantz Elementary School when I was 6, they made it so that all kids could go to any school. Today I'm 66 and still live in New Orleans with Malcolm.
Hi, my name is Jennifer Hudson. I was born on September 12, 1981 in Chicago, Illinois. I was raised by my two moms. Since early active, we were raised as Baptists. One of our fifth church's choir. In 2001, I went to community college and studied music. After I graduated, I worked on music relationships. In 2004, I went on American Idol. Sadly, I didn't win, but after my appearances, I was fired out in the public. In 2006, I started making videos, and after that, my anniversary. In 2008, I started the J&D King Foundation. This foundation helps families in poverty in the States. I named this foundation after my nephew, who had sadly passed away in 2009, my son was born. In 2011, I made a cover of Vogue as the first African American singer. Nowadays, I am a single mother who concentrates on careers for family life and uplifting others and having confidence.
I'm Maya Angela. I was born on April 4th in 1928. I grew up in Stamps, Arkansas with my grandmother, Annie Henderson, and my brother, Bailey. At the time, Arkansas was partially segregated. I attended George Washington High School and graduated at 17. In my teenage years, I worked as the first African-American female streetcar conductor. After I graduated, I went on to become a performer and changed my legal name to Maya Angela. For a year, I toured Europe with the production of the opera Porgy and Bess. 3 years later, I moved to New York City to focus on my writing career. I would go on to write in multiple newspapers such as the Arab Observer and the African Review. Though my most famous piece is my autobiography entitled I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. For this, I received a National Book Award nomination, and I would go on to write over 15 novels and 167 poems. And in 1993, I performed my poem on the Pulse of Morning at Bill Clinton's presidential inauguration. I received awards such as a Tony Award nomination for my role in the Broadway play Look Away, and 3 Grammy Award nominations for my spoken word albums, as well as an Emmy for my appearance on the television miniseries Race. And in 1998, I was inducted into the National Women's Hall of Fame. I was also a civil rights activist. I worked as the Northern Coordinator for the Southern Christian Leadership Conference under Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s name. In 1961, I got married and resigned from my position. In my letter of resignation, I left King a message that read, "I join with millions of African Americans around the world in saying that you are our leader." In my older years, I spent my time with my family. I had 1 son named Guy Johnson, 2 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. And in 2014, on May 28th, I passed away at the age of 86 due to a heart condition.
My name is LJ Taunt Woods, but you might know me as Tiger Woods. I was born December 30th, 1975 in Cypress, California. My parents' names are Earl Jr. and Cal Tiger Woods. I have 2 brothers, Kevin and Earl Jr., and a sister named Doris. In 1994, I started at Stanford University, studying economics and playing golf. After my sophomore year of college, I decided to turn professional in golf. The next year, I won the Masters. I was the youngest and only African American title winner. On October 5th, 2004, I got married to my longtime girlfriend, Ellen Nordgren. Unfortunately, 2006 wasn't as good of a year, since my father tragically died of cancer. But the next year, my daughter was born, June 18, 2007. Her name is Sam Alexis Woods. Exactly 1 year later, I had to leave the golf tour for reconstructive knee surgery. On February 8, 2009, my second child was born. His name is Charlie Axel Woods. Late December that year, I decided to take some time off golf due to personal reasons. Late 2009, I got into a big cheating scandal, and sadly, I lost pretty much everything. That is one of my biggest regrets in my entire life. On August 23, 2010, my wife and I decided to get a divorce. In March of 2014, I had to undergo back surgery. In April, 3 years later, I had my 4th back surgery. April 14, 2009, I won my 5th Masters. This Tuesday, I was in a single car crash and was hospitalized. I sustained major injuries and had to undergo immediate leg surgery. My future at this point is uncertain.
Mel Harris was born on October 20th, 1964. She was known for being a politician and being the first female, Black, Indian American, and Asian Vice President of the United States. I am also known for being the first African American to represent California in the Senate. I come from many different cultural backgrounds, as my father came from Jamaica and my mother was Indian. I moved to Canada with my mother and sister in 1976 when I was 12 after my parents divorced in 1971. I attended Westmount High School, which is one of the most diverse schools in Canada, and studied political science and economics at Howard University in Washington. I had also attended Hastings College of Law, where I earned a law degree. I was the first African American woman and South Asian woman to hold the San Francisco District Attorney office, and the first African American and woman to serve as California Attorney General. When I was San Francisco District Attorney, I launched the Back on Track initiative that offered job training and educational programs for low-level offenders and became the chief of the Bureau of Children's Justice. I ran for the 2020 President of the United States and was the first African American in the race. I have helped with international and domestic affairs and homeland security committee. I have helped people of all races, LGBTQ, and minorities in California and America overall.
Hey, I'm Patrick McCombs. I grew up in a small town outside of Tyler, Texas. I'm 25 years old, and I play football for the NFL. I grew up playing all sorts of sports, baseball, basketball, and football. 2009, I went to Texas Tech for football. 2017, I got drafted into the NFL by the Kansas City Chiefs. 2018, I had my NFL debut in Denver versus the Broncos. 2020, they won the Super Bowl, and yeah, we played the 49ers.
Alright, good job.
An interesting fact
When I got drafted in the NFL, I also got drafted into the MLB, and I decided to play football, obviously. Some of my awards are Super Bowl MVP, Super Bowl 59, or 54, I mean. First to throw 50 touchdowns in a single season. He won league MVP and drafted to the MLB, but step with football. There you go.
Awesome.
I'm Catherine. Hello, I'm Catherine Johnson. I was born in 1918. I was in West Virginia. I worked in and help people put astronauts around the Earth. I given that presentation Meditation of Freedom in 2015. I died in February 2020. I always told my students to never give up on their dreams.
Hi, my name is Educator. I was born on December 3rd, 1903. I have two siblings, a sister and a brother. I was a famous civil rights and human rights activist. I was born in Norfolk, Virginia, and grew up in Lowell, North Carolina. I was close to my grandma, so she used to tell me stories about whipping she had received. As the acting director of the Atlanta office of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, I worked behind the scenes to help important civil rights events. I even got the nickname for my life, Fundi, a Swahili word that means a person who teaches craft to the next generation. In 1957, I made my way to Atlanta to be part of Martin Luther King Jr.'s new organization. I worked on the campaign to help enforce voting rights for Black people, called the for Citizenship. There is a Center for Human Rights. It's named after me. The center strengthens communities for minorities and low-income people. It also helps prisoners. I am proud of the work I did for the civil rights movement.
My name is Hank Aaron. I was born on February 5th, 1934 in Mobile, Alabama. My parents' names are Estella and Herbert Aaron. I was a third-born child out of 8, and I was most famous for being an extremely talented and inspiring baseball player, and for passing Babe Ruth's home run record of 714 and for knocking down race borders in the South. I was the first African American to play Major League Baseball in the South. As a child, my family was very poor, so I often used lava caps and sticks to practice hitting. I went to Central High School and Josephine Allen Institute, which had a better baseball program. As an 18-year-old, I dropped out of high school to play in the American Negro Leagues for the Indianapolis Clowns, and that's where my career started. After a few months of playing in the Negro Leagues, I had multiple Major League Baseball offers. In 1934, I signed on the Milwaukee Braves, who first started in Milwaukee. During my career on the Milwaukee Braves, I experienced racism since our team was being moved to the South in Atlanta, Georgia. During the move, I often had to stay in separate hotels, eat at different places, and had to travel with bodyguards away from my teammates due to abuse and racism I was experiencing, which put my whole team in danger. At the very end of my career, I got traded to the Milwaukee Brewers and played on their team for 2 seasons. All throughout my career, I ended with 2,297 runs batted in, 1,477 base hits, and 6,856 total bases, and played in 23 total All-Star games. I passed Babe Ruth's home run record of 714 home runs and hit 755 until Barry Bonds took my record with 762. I got placed in the MLB Hall of Fame. In 2002, President George W. Bush rewarded me with the Presidential Medal of Freedom.
Hi, my name is Travis Bozeman, also known as Black Panther. I was born on November 29th, 1976. My mom and dad's names are Lori and Carl. Growing up in Anderson, SC, I had 2 siblings. My siblings' names are Kevin and Derek. Growing up, I went to LT Hannah High School. In the early 2000s, I started my career as an actor, where I acted in my first movie called The Express. I also acted in a number of other movies, like God's Egypt and Drafted. I even starred in movies like Message from the Tree, 21 Bridges, and 42. One day, I got a call from Marvel Studios to play Black Panther in a movie called Captain America: Civil War. After Marvel saw how well I acted as Black Panther, they decided to make the movie Black Panther. Sadly, I was secretly had colon cancer and died on August 28, 2020. I was the main character in the first ever Black superhero movie, and I gave underserved kids a hero they could relate to. I was always kind and polite to everyone I met and worked with. I did a good job at hiding my colon cancer and working hard at my job. But all good things have to come to an end at one.
Hi, I'm Denzel Washington. I was born on December 28th, 1954 in Mount Vernon in New York State. I am the middle of three kids born to my mother, Lennis. I went to school at Fordham University. After I graduated from high school, I decided to become an actor. I've been in movies like Fences, Magnificent Seven, Unstoppable, and Deja Vu. I was 67 I was in 61 movies in total, although I started at consistency. In total, I often am celebrated with characters performed by their inner strength, humanity, and dignity.
Hi, my name is Barack Obama, and I was born August 4th, 1961, to my parents Barack Obama Sr. and Stanley Dunham. My father died in a car crash after coming back from college. Soon after, my mother remarried and took me to Indonesia so she could do field work for college. She later worried about my education there and sent me back to live with my grandparents in Hawaii. I played high school basketball and enjoyed it. When I graduated, I went to Occidental College in Los Angeles for 2 years, then transferred to Columbia University in New York. There, I fell in love with political science. While working at a law firm there, I was offered a job in Chicago working as a community organizer in large cities of poverty. After working there for a few years, I realized that I couldn't make big changes without a law degree, so I went to Harvard to study the law there. I became the first Black president of the prestigious law review at Harvard, and also met my beautiful wife, Michelle. She was assigned to help me around the campus. After schooling at Harvard, I went back to Chicago with Michelle to get stuff done. Soon after, I married Michelle, and I ran for the Illinois State Senate, won for 2 terms, and that inspired me to do more political work. So after a few times of trying, I was elected to the U.S. House of Representatives. Not only that, but I ran for president in 2008 election, and I won the title of the first African American president. During this presidency, I had a lot of successes like passing a bill helping equal pay, lifting the ban on people with HIV and AIDS traveling to the U.S., passing a bill saying hate crimes would be investigated deeper, repealing the Don't Ask, Don't Tell, allowing LGBTQ plus members to be open about their sexuality in the military, granting underperforming schools money for better education. He also started a child care health plan, the Affordable Care Act, and won a Nobel Peace Prize. My motto is always, yes we can, because everything we put our minds to, we can do. So I'm honored to have won the title of president for 2 terms in a row, and even more honored to do it alongside my wife, 2 daughters, and they have been so supportive and helpful. Thank you.
I'm Carl Malone. I was born July 24th, 1963. My parents are Shirley and Frederick Hay. When I was 3, my dad committed suicide, so I didn't really ever know him. I lived on a farm, so I did a lot of hunting and fishing. I went to Summerfield High School in Louisiana. I played basketball there, led them to 3 consecutive titles. After high school, I enrolled in Louisiana Tech University. I had an offer to Arkansas, but Louisiana was closer to home. I wasn't able to play freshman year because my grades were too low. So I started my sophomore year, and then after college, I was drafted in 1985 to the Utah Jazz. I played 18 seasons with them. I played in 14 All-Star games, won 2 MVPs. After the 18th season, I went to the Lakers and hoped to win a championship. After the first season, I retired because of issues with Kobe. After I retired, I coached for Louisiana Tech University, and after that, I coached for the Utah Jazz. Now I live in northern Louisiana. I own a cigar shop, a clothing store, a teriyaki restaurant, and an apartment complex with my dog.
Hi,
I'm Dorothy Van Hahn. I was born in 1910, Kansas City, on September 20th. I'm famous for being a human computer for NASA and the first black woman manager at NASA. When I was 7, my mom and dad, Leonard and Ann Johnson, moved the family to Morgantown, West Virginia. There, I graduated from Beechers High School in 1925. 4 years later, I got a Bachelor of Science degree from Wilberforce University in Ohio. In 1932, I married Howard Van Hahn. I had 6 children. Then I began teaching at R.R. Mode High School in Farmville, Virginia. In 1943, I was hired as a mathematician and programmer at Langley Research Institute. My main job was to calculate flight paths and Fortran and computer programming. And I worked on the NASA Scout project, which helped launch satellites into space. I died on November 10th, 2008, from old age. I showed black women could not just be smart, but they could also be managers, and they could even work at NASA. I also showed that black people weren't dumb as the stereotype of the time said they were. And I was also featured in the book Hidden Figures and movie. And now NASA has gone so far as to launch rovers all the way to Mars. And I helped propel NASA into the future when they weren't really doing well, and no one had faith in NASA.
February 1st, 1902 is when Langston Hughes was born in Joplin. In June 1920, he wrote The Negro Speaks of Rivers. In June 1921, said book was published. September 19th, 1921, he moved to New York. In 1923, he joins the crew of the SS Malone. In November 1924, he gets his first break as a writer. In 1926, he wrote in between 1924 and 1926, he wrote a book, The Weary Blues. It is published in 1926, and that is when he returned to college and went to Lincoln University. 1929, he graduated college. 1935, he wins the Guggenheim Fellowship. 1937, he covers the Spanish Civil War as a writer. 1947, 10 years later, he starts his career as a teacher. And then in 1960, he wins the Spring Arm Medal. Then May 22nd, 1967, he dies in New York at age 66. That's it.
I'm Captain Luther Smith of the 332nd Division. I've flown 133 combat missions. I had 10 kills in the air, 2 on the ground. I was born September 20th, 1920 in Des Moines, Iowa. When I was 11, me and my little brother found $5 in the field, so we used it to buy a plane ticket. I've been in love with aviation ever since. When I was 13, I'd walk 5 miles every day to the nearest airport and help out whoever I could in the hangars. In 1942, I enlisted for the U.S. Army as a pilot. In 1944, I crashed on my final mission, was captured by Nazis and put in a Nazi hospital at a prison camp. In 1945, the U.S. rescued me, and I was forced to retire due to my injuries. In 1950, I graduated the University of Iowa with a bachelor's degree in engineering and married Lois Gordon. In 2000, I began my first speech on my times in World War II. By 2009, I died at the age of 89 in Philadelphia.
Hi, my name is Scotty Marie Spivak. I was born on September 25th, 1965 in England. My mom and dad's names are Ethel Pittman and Chester. I grew up the youngest of 11 siblings. Growing up, I went to Cambridge High School. I was short in high school, only standing 6'1" and only weighed 150 pounds. Even though I led my high school team to the state playoffs, no college offered me a basketball scholarship. My high school coach booked with the University of Central Arkansas, and I got a spot on the basketball team. When I was in college, I had a growth spurt, and in my senior year of high school or college, I stood 6'8". When I graduated, I was drafted by the Seattle Supersonics, going 5th overall in 1987. 2 weeks later, I was traded to the Chicago Bulls. When I went to the Bulls, I realized that I'm not the top guy on the basketball team anymore, since Michael Jordan was just coming into his prime. I was always in his shadow. He became the face of the Bulls. I was second on the Bulls in points and rebounds, and I led the Bulls in steals and assists. I was 6th on the Bulls in salary and 122nd in the NBA in salary. I had a lot of value to the team, and I was very underrated. Even though I made the All-Star team 7 times, I made the Olympic basketball team in 1992 and 1996 and won 2 gold medals. In 1991 through 1993, the Bulls won 3 championships in a row. After that, Michael Jordan temporarily retired for 2 years to go play baseball. In those 2 years, we made it to the playoffs and lost both times. When Michael returned to the NBA, the Bulls started winning again, and we ended up winning 3 more championships. After the 1998 season, where we won our 6th championship, the Bulls started rebuilding, and I got traded to the Houston Rockets. A year later, I got traded again to the Portland Trail Blazers, and I never won a championship with them, while only putting up average numbers. I retired in 2008, playing 17 seasons in the NBA. In 2008, I played. In 2010, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. I played a huge part in the championships I won with the Bulls. I was content with the situation on the Bulls and played my role on the team. And that caused us to win. That is why I'm the greatest number 2 basketball player.
My name is Billy Holiday, and I was born April 7th, 1915 in Philadelphia. I was born to an unwedded teenage mother named Sadie Fagan. My childhood was one of poverty. My father, Clarence Holiday, later a jazz guitarist, married my mom, Sadie, 3 years later. My father never lived with me and my mom because he chose his musical career over us. I was known as the best jazz vocalist of all time, and I was known for my vocal delivery and skills. I died in New York on July 17, 1959.
Hello, my name is Beyonce Knowles. I was born on September 4th, 1981. My mom and dad's names are Tina and Matthew Knowles. Growing up in Houston, Texas, I had 2 siblings, Bianca and Solange. I grew up from Elson High School, and I grew up studying music since I was 4 years old. At age 9, I started playing in my band, Destiny's Child, as lead singer. I later decided to go solo as an R&B artist. I have received over 100 music awards, and I have impacted the music and fashion industry greatly. Later in 2008, I got married to rapper Jay-Z and had 3 little children, Blue Ivy, Rumi, and Serge Carter. To this day, I still make music and perform my hit songs as an R&B artist. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Chapel Crosby, and I was born on November 29th, 1976. My mom and dad's names were Leroy and Caroline. Growing up in Anderson, South Carolina, I had 2 brothers named Kevin and Derek. My siblings, growing up, I went to Alda High School, and when I was a kid, I was always keen on playing basketball. But in every chance I got, I would always play. In high school, my sophomore year, I played for basketball again. But then after I graduated high school, I went to college at Loyola College and studied directing and started my first ever movie called The Express. Then later those years, I got into different movies, and I had a lot of impacts on people and actors. The way I fought through my colon cancer that I got diagnosed with, and that didn't stop me from filming though. So I filmed Black Panther and Avengers Endgame, and Endgame, the 2 best movies I think was.
And then I remembered how I help people continue to dream and keep continuing.
Hello, my name is Halle Berry. I was born August 16th, 1966. My mom and dad's names are Judith Ann Hawkins and Jerome Jesse Berry. Growing up in Cleveland, Ohio, I had two siblings. My siblings' names are Heidi and Renee Berry. Growing up, I went to Housecut Middle School and Bedford High School. My dad walked out of the family in the early 1970s. I went through discrimination at an early age by going to a white school. After high school, I went to Cuyahoga Community College and studied broadcasting. After I graduated, I moved to New York to go into my dream of modeling and acting. I soon sadly had to live in a homeless shelter, but after I got a job for ABC's Living Dolls, my confidence grew tremendously. In 1991, I landed a role on Spike Lee's Jungle Fever. I married my then husband, David Justice, in 1991, and in 1993, I got the lead of The Story of American Family. After that, I had a bunch of roles and something didn't start to happen. In 1991, I was nominated for my role as Dorothy Danbridge, but in 2000, I was nominated for my first Emmy as a role as Dorothy Danbridge. Because of my success, I landed a role in Monsters Ball, and in 2002, I was the first African American woman to win a Golden Globe. I was nominated for an Emmy for my role as Janie Crawford in 2005, and in 2009, I gave birth to my Girl in the Hollow with Gabriel Aubrey. I then married Oliver Martinez in 2013, and that year I gave birth to Maceo, my son. But in 2016, Oliver and I got divorced, and in 2020, I started dating my current boyfriend, Dan.
I'm Booker T. Washington. I was an author, educator, orator, and a philanthropist. I was born in 1856 and I died in 1915. I founded a tiny school in Tuskegee, Alabama. It now enrolls 3,000 students. One of my important achievements was teaching at a time where there were little to no black teachers. So I was born into slavery and I became an influential black leader. I called for black progress through education and entrepreneurship.
Hi, my name is Dr. May Jameson. I was the first African American astronaut. I was born on October 17, 1956, and I am an engineer, a physician, and a former NASA astronaut. I became the first black woman to travel in space when I served as a mission specialist aboard the Space Shuttle Adventure. Jameson, I joined NASA's astronaut corps in 1873, and I was selected to serve for the STS-47 mission. I am still alive at 64, and I am famous for being the first African American astronaut. My early life, I was very discriminated and stuff because segregation was a big thing back then. And I moved from, I don't remember where I moved from, but I moved to Houston, Texas for better education and education pay. I can speak 4 languages: Spanish, Swahili, Russian, and Chinese. I went to college for biology, astrophysics, and engineering.
My name is Viola Davis. I am famous for my acting career. I was born in 1965 in South Carolina to my parents, Dan and Mary Alice Davis.
I am the second youngest of 6 siblings. When my family moved to Central Falls, Rhode Island, I had to leave behind my oldest sister and only brother due to a lack of space. Rhode Island was awful. Our apartment was dirty and rat infested. Kids at school bullied me and my friends for the color of our skin. I graduated Central Falls High in 1988. I began my acting career in 1998. A director saw my talent and cast me in bigger roles in 2000. I met my wonderful husband in 2003. And we had a beautiful little girl named Genesis in 2011. It happened. In 2012, I won an Oscar Award for Best Supporting Actress. 2 years later, in 2014, I started the Hunger Is campaign. I help feed starving people all around the world get the food and shelter they need. In 2015, I won an Emmy Award for the Best Actress in How to Get Away with Murder, which you can find on Netflix. In 2017, I won both an Oscar Award and an Academy Award for the movie Fences. Just last year, in 2020, my husband Julius, my daughter Genesis, and I moved back to St. Matthews, South Carolina. I am now 55 years old, and I am pleased to look back on when I started and compare where I am in the world today.
Hello, my name is Malcolm Little. I was born on May 19th, 1925. My mom and dad's name is Earl Little. My mom's name is Louis Little, and my dad's name is Earl. Growing up in Omaha, Nebraska, I had no siblings when I was growing up. I went to West Junior High School. In my early age, I was mostly in foster homes or at relatives' places. In my middle age, I became an activist, and in 1946, I was sentenced to prison for 10 years for illegal activities. In prison, I joined something called Islam, and that's where I changed my name to Malcolm X. After a while, I was let out of prison in 1952, where I was on my parole. In 1953, I became an assistant minister of a nation's temple, number 1 in Detroit. On February 19th, 1965, I told an interviewer that the Islam was out to kill me. On February 21st, 1965, I was preparing to talk to the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which I founded in 1964. One day, when my bodyguards were trying to warn me, a man rushed at me with a sawed-off shotgun and shot me in the chest. And out of nowhere, 2 men come at me with semi-automatic handguns. One of my accomplishments was that I helped people and made some protests be successful. And another one is my wife and children. And since I completed those, I've had a good life.
Hello, my name is Mary Jackson. I was born on April 9th, 1921. My mom's name is Ella Scott Winston, and my dad's name is Frank Winston. Growing up, I had 10 siblings: Emily J. Winston, Cora B. Winston, and Melvin S. Winston. These are just some of my siblings. Growing up, I went to Hampton University in 1937. In my early years, I attended an all-black school in Hampton, Virginia. Soon after I graduated with high honors from George B. Phoenix Training School in 1937. About 5 years later, I earned a dual bachelor's degree in physical science and mathematics. So after I got my degree, I became a math teacher, and I started to tutor students, and I loved my students, and they were the best. And I enjoyed my time with them. About 30 years later at NASA, I had earned the most senior title within the engineering department. I had conquered many challenges along the way. Life threw many challenges at me, but that didn't stop me. I was known as being a very positive person, at least I tried to be most times. Mary Jackson looked up to me. Many people looked up to me, and that's what made me happy.
Hello, my name is Muhammad Ali. I was born January 17th, 1942. My mom and dad's name is Cassius Marcellus Clay Sr. and Odessa Grad Clay. Growing up, I had one sibling whose name was Rahman Ali. I went to Central High School. My childhood was rough. One time my bike was stolen, and I told the police I wanted to beat him up. So he took me to the gym and trained me.
In 1960, I went to the Olympics when I was only 18 and won gold. My career took off after this, and I defeated Sonny Liston for the heavyweight title of the world and pulled the biggest upset in boxing history. Later, I retired in 1979 after a very successful boxing career. I died June 3rd, 2016. And then, so his birth name was Cassius Marcellus Clay Jr., named after his father. He has brothers. He said the quote, live like a butterfly, sting like a bee. He started fighting because he had his bike stolen and police trained him. And here's photos of him staying over Sonny Liston for the championship, getting the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005. He had 56 wins, 37 wins by knockout, and 5 losses. He had 4 wives and 9 kids with the 4th one. And he was inducted to the Boxing Hall of Fame in 1990. He was also drafted to Vietnam in 1966 and refused, so he was sent to jail for 5 years, but got out on the 4th. And he got noticed by Team USA for winning amateur boxing tournaments, and he got his way up to Olympics and had a very successful boxing career, and got to light the Olympic flame in Atlanta. And he died in 2016 on June 3rd because of respiratory issues, and he had Parkinson's.
Hi, I'm Rose Parks, and I'm a civil rights activist. I was born on February 4th, 1913. I got married on December 18th, 1932, to Raymond Parks when I was 19 years old. I have no children, but I do have a brother named Sylvester. My brother sadly died at the age of 62, and in December of 1955, I was arrested for not giving up my spot to a white man on a Montgomery bus. I was in jail for 4 days, and the state of Montgomery started the bus boycott. They arrested me for not doing what the white man said. Over 17,000 black citizens crowded the streets of Montgomery. My mom was a teacher for the Montgomery International School for Girls. My dad was a carpenter. I died at the age of 92 and lived a very exciting and interesting life.
Hello, my name is Wilma Rudolph. I'm a U.S. gold medal sprinter. I was born June 23rd, 1940 in St. Bethlehem, Tennessee. I'm famous for winning 3 gold medal track and field medals in 1960 at the Olympic Games, where I also broke 3 world records. This made me the first woman to win 3 gold medals in the same Olympic Games. I grew up in Clarksville, where I attended elementary and high school. My father, Ed, worked as a railroad reporter and other odd jobs. Sadly, my father passed in 1961. My mother, Blanca, worked as a maid in Clarksville Homes and died 1994. I was very sick as a child with polio, not walk without grace. 4 years of treatment, including breast trips, Nashville, and massage treatments and orthopedic shoe, I was able to fully walk again with help at the age of 12. When I first started high school, I played basketball and ran track. After high school, I attended the University of Tennessee on a full track scholarship. In 1958, I had a daughter named Yolanda with my high school sweetheart, William Lynn. William and I married in 1961 and later divorced in 1963. Shortly after my divorce to William, I married Robert Eldred several months later. In both 1960 and 1961, I won Athlete of the Year. I also won the James B. Sullivan Award in 1961. If you want to learn anything about me, let know. Winning is great, sure. But if you really want to do something in life, the secret is learning how to win. If you can pick up after crushing defeat and go on and win again, you're going to become a champion someday. This is a family photo. That's her dad, that's her mother, and that's her and mother and sisters. This is a photo with her friends after she got first place and won the 3 gold Olympic medals. And then this is her running, and this is right when they decided to make her the fastest woman in the world. And this is her when she won the Athlete of the Year and the James B. Sullivan Award. And then these are some of her quotes. And then her most famous one is, I understand the power of dreams and the influence of humans here. We are the same in this nation, but the potential of greatness lives in each lost strength in her foot. It was her hard work and determination that made a star on her she is today. And then in 1944 is when she touched down her really young leg. Then in 1945 she got a steel brace in her left leg. And then this is in 1947 she entered elementary at Hartsfield Elementary. And then in 1951 she secretly practices walking without it, and she also is able to walk without the brace later that year. She joins the track and field team and the basketball team at Burton High School in 1952, and then meets Coach Ed Tipper when her team plays East Tennessee Conference at the championship, and then wins bronze medal at the 4x100 meter dash relay at the Olympics, and then enters Tennessee State University at 1950 when she won the Olympics in 16 and became the first African American woman to win 3 gold medals in 1960. Also in 1960, she broke the 200 meter race at the Olympic trials in 1960 again. In 1963, she retires from competition and peaks at her career and becoming a second grade teacher at College Elementary School. And then works with young people at the Job Corps in 1967. And then she died of brain cancer in 1994.
Hello, I'm Michelle Obama, and I was born January 17, 1964. My parents are Fraser and Marion Robinson, and I have a brother, Craig, who's 2 years older than me. I went to high school at Whitney M. Young Magnet School. I was on the honor roll, student council treasurer, member of the National Honor Society, and graduated top of my class all 4 years. I graduated from there in 1981. I continued my studies at Princeton University and majored in sociology and minored in African American studies. I graduated from Princeton in 1985. After that, I decided I wanted to become a lawyer, so I attended Harvard Law School and graduated from there in 1988. In 1989, I met my husband, Barack Obama, and we dated for 2 years and got married on October 3rd, 1992. We had 2 kids, Malia and Sasha. Through those time periods after Harvard, I was a vice president for Community and External Affairs at the University of Chicago Medical Center. In 2009, my husband Barack became the 44th President of the United States, making me the first African American First Lady and him the first African American President. In 2012, our term was up, so Barack decided to run again and got re-elected as President for 4 more years. In 2012, I launched the Let's Move program, which was targeted to get down on childhood obesity, reduce it. And now I am writing books, and I'm 57 years old.
Hello, my name is Marianne Anderson. I was born on February 27, 1897 in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and died April 8, 1993. I'm famous for being one of the first African American opera singers. My father was John Berkeley Anderson, and my mother was Annie Lila Anderson. I'm also the oldest of my sisters, who were Alice and Ethel Anderson, who also became singers. I went to school at William Penn High School, but later transferred to South Philadelphia High School to focus on my music. After graduating, I applied to college at the Philadelphia Music Academy, but they rejected me because of my skin color. Not only was I just a singer, but I was also a part of the civil rights movement and performed at the March on Washington, which is where Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech, along with a bunch of other celebrities. I also sang at the Lincoln Memorial Concert and at the inauguration of President Dwight D. Eisenhower. I did not let being a female African American stop me from achieving my dreams.
Hello, my name is Josephine Baker. I was born on June 3rd, 1906 in St. Louis, Missouri. My parents' names are Carrie McDonald and Eddie Carson. Growing up in St. Louis, I had 3 siblings. My siblings' names are Margaret, Richard, and Willie Mae Martin. Growing up, I went to normal school until I was 8. At that age, I was pulled out by my parents to work and help support my family. Until I was 10, then I went back to school. Some of my biggest accomplishments included being the first female to be given the Heroism Award, getting offered to take Martin Luther King Jr.'s spot after he passed, and being one of the biggest role models to women at that time. I'm very against racism and fascism in France. I do all the work that I can to protect people and help the Black community in London.
And we'll